All right, so we're closing in on the end of it here for South Carolina's primary. At the time of my recording, 85% is now reporting in. Joe Biden has been projected to be the winner of South Carolina's Democratic preference primary, whatever the fancy little word they want to call it here in South Carolina is. Right now, showing 85% reporting. He still has a lead with 48.8% of the vote. That's total as of right now at 213,727. Again, Bernie a distant second place, 19.8% with 86,778. And honestly, not too far behind Bernie. He's, far closer to Bernie than Bernie is to Joe Biden in this one. Unfortunately, for God's sakes, Tom Steyer at 11.5%, pulling in 50,154 votes. Where did my girl Tulsi fall on the list? As of right now, 1.3% with 5,543 votes. And here's what is utterly crushing to me. I kind of figured Warren might do slightly better, which is disappointing. But the fact that Amy Klobuchar did better than Tulsi Gabbard. Absolutely sad that I'm seeing all this happen with Tulsi. After I saw Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, I kind of expected it. A lot of people just didn't know who Tulsi Gabbard was. And I've said this before in previous videos with Big Talk, Little Talk, for example. Unfortunately, I just don't believe many voters are informed on a level they should be. People, I don't think, inform themselves about enough policy and history of positions before they go vote. I think they just say, oh, so-and-so stands for this, so I like that person. I think that's pretty much where they make their mind up from. So some demographics that have come out, for example, about Joe Biden and why he did so well was that apparently he was winning out of every five African American voter in South Carolina. Joe Biden, out of every five, was pulling three. Okay. Bernie was getting like 1 out of 5. Now, obviously, being from South Carolina, I can tell you this. A lot of what make up the Democrat base in South Carolina, and a lot more over the country for that matter, are obviously people of color. Okay. A lot of white people in South Carolina tend to be more Republican. All the ones I've encountered, with a few exceptions, definitely lean more towards the Republican side. It's a very red state for that simple reason. Okay. And let's face it, Barack Obama still polls very well with the African American community. So right here in South Carolina, when you've got a presidential primary based mostly on people that are coming out to vote being people of color, even though the amount, as it's showing right now, of white voters that have participated in this Democrat presidential primary are up from 2016. Part of that's due to the fact that South Carolina has an open primary, the way they all should be, not closed, where only a Democrat can vote in the Democratic primary. You can be independent, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. Okay, so somebody like me could go vote in whatever primary I chose as long as there would be like multiple primaries, Republican or Democrat. Of course, South Carolina did not hold a Republican primary. Good reason. No one's posing Donald Trump an actual threat. But I could go vote, and I don't have to register as a Democrat to go vote, okay? That's the way they all should be. But so there's more people, white people, who come out to vote, as the numbers show right now in this one, than the last time around in 2016, okay? But nonetheless, there's been a huge turnout from African American voters, And it has reflected big time in the numbers that Joe Biden has got right here in South Carolina. Pulled off with a big victory, just like Bernie did with Nevada. Now, what does this mean going forward? Kyle Kulinski's been talking about this very much over on Secular Talk. Joe Biden has exhausted a lot of resources right here in my backyard. And it paid off for him. He's done well. But while he's been, spending all that time and money here, he has neglected upcoming states. How soon are they upcoming? This coming Tuesday. Super Tuesday is right around the corner. And he has not done anything remotely close to what he should have done in these upcoming Super Tuesday states. Now, who is doing fairly well in those states? Bernie Sanders. So while Bernie may have gotten really slapped down tonight, probably going to have a strong chance he's going to bounce back on Super Tuesday without a doubt. However, how big could these victories be? Are we going to see more of what we saw in Nevada? Are we going to see like what we're seeing tonight from Joe Biden, except it be Bernie again? Are we going to see that, or are we going to see what we saw basically in New Hampshire and Iowa, where, yes, Bernie came out with the win at the end of the day, but unless he's pulling in massive amounts of delegates where he can clearly get the majority at the convention, he's going to end up with a plurality. And we already know what's going to happen when he ends up with a plurality. No one's going to jump behind him to give him a majority. It's going to go to a contested convention. Super delegates come out. Boom. It's a wrap, folks. They're going to screw him. They're going to screw him. Even Elizabeth Warren's admitting she would gladly take the nomination to be handed to her should it go by super delegates supporting her over Bernie. She'd be more than happy to get that way. Of course, other people who've said that, Pete Buttigieg, and I guarantee you Amy Klobuchar, Joe Biden, and Mike Bloomberg would not have an issue with it being stolen and given to them thanks to super delegates either. They would all be more than happy. Tom Steyer probably would too. Okay? So, with that being said, I'm disappointed in what I've saw out of South Carolina, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. Unfortunately, I don't think many people look at the actual policy. They're not that familiar with what's going on, but they're going to go vote. They know they don't like Trump. They know they like Barack Obama, and Joe Biden was Barack Obama's vice president, so they're going to go out and vote for that specific reason, but they're going in to vote blindly. They are literally, to use an example, Israel over on Big Talk Little Talk was bringing up this cliche, I guess, that the Pied Piper strategy. And that's what a lot of voters, I feel like, in South Carolina have done. And it's not just my state. I feel like perhaps it could be a lot of voters across the country, in areas in general, that jump behind people like Joe Biden and whatnot. I have a hard time believing there's a lot of real blue-collar people who have studied the history of Joe Biden, studied the policy, examined it out, and has some basic knowledge about politics and really comes out believing that Joe Biden is a great candidate. I really have a hard time coming to grips with that, and I just don't believe that many people really and truly believe that. I just don't think it is actually that way. Joe Biden's health care plan is a disaster because Barack Obama's health care plan was not great. It was an old Republican plan. And for anyone who thinks that Obamacare was great, you may be one of the few who did benefit from Obamacare. How many Americans did not benefit from Obamacare? And it certainly didn't solve the problem. It didn't get everyone on health care. So, again, and the answer is not to turn it all back over to private insurance companies. The answer is to move towards Medicare for all or single payer plus. One of the two. We've debated the pros and cons to each. A lot of people think Medicare for all is definitely the way to go. I see their point and their argument saying that is probably the better way to go. But I also see where Tulsi comes from on the whole single payer plus thing too. Either one would be vast improvements over what we've got now. But a public option plan that Joe Biden's pushing for, absolutely not going to be a great plan, and we've discussed why numerous times on this channel. But in brief summary, public option, it's going to incentivize more and more and more private insurance to try and grab up as much as they can of the rich, healthy, and wealthy. When they grab them up, they pawn the sick and poor off to the government plan. Doesn't balance the risk, doesn't balance the cost, and at the end of the day, the government plan falls flat on its ass. And who is waiting on the sidelines, ready to cash in on that opportunity, ready to capitalize, run the advertisements to say, hey, you wanted this and it didn't work. Now don't you wish you had stuck with what you had before? The people that's been making money this entire time, Big Pharma and the insurance companies who've been raking in billions and billions and billions of dollars in profits. And that is why Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, and Joe Biden's plans are absolutely BS, and they are no good. They are no good. But again, how many people have taken the time to study that and think it through? I would venture to say that the ones who are out there supporting Joe Biden, who are really blue collar, either haven't studied that much about how it's actually going to work and have just heard Joe Biden's plan at face value and think it makes sense. Or, again, they're simply voting because, hey, he was Obama's VP, and we like Obama, and we hate Trump, so we're going to go for this guy because we think he represents us the best. Whatever the reason is, looks like Joe Biden's pulling ahead with it. I'll take one final look before I wrap this video up to see what the count's coming out to at this point. Not too much changed. It says 89% reporting as of right now. Still 27 delegates for Joe, 7 delegates for Bernie, 48.7% of the vote going to Joe, 19.9% going to Bernie, and Joe's count is 223,329, while Bernie is sitting at 91,123. So we've got 11% to go before we're at our 100% reporting, and Joe Biden with a very comfortable, very dominant lead in this race. I can't say that I'm surprised. I'm really not. Unfortunately, I've said it multiple times in this video and others. I just don't think that the people of South Carolina have really informed themselves on politics as much as they should have, and they have followed Joe Biden into this victory very, very blindly. But we'll see what happens in the upcoming states. All I can say is at least Bernie's getting some delegates out of it. But to get that majority, this wasn't what we needed to see. So unless Bernie starts making up for it double time after this, all these delegates are going to count if you don't want to see it get screwed. I would love to have seen Tulsi Gabbard be getting a lot of delegates. If it had been a convention where it came down to Tulsi or Bernie, we're pretty much gold. And obviously I would hope at that point it would have gone to Tulsi Gabbard. But looks like the media has succeeded in pretty much blackballing Tulsi Gabbard out of this entire thing. And I'm not sure what the future holds for Tulsi Gabbard. I plan to cover that a little bit, talk about what some potential future possibilities are. Obviously, she started her own podcast. I think it's a great idea. But at this point, the odds of getting anywhere close to becoming president, it's already looking like it could be a contested convention, screwing Bernie out of the nomination. And Bernie's already been coming on strong. So if it's going to be a long shot for him, what are the odds that Tulsi Gabbard's got a chance in hell with a contested convention and she hasn't even gathered one delegate? I'm not saying that because I want to piss off any of my audience, any of the people who are subscribed to my channel. Unfortunately, that's just going to be a cold, hard fact that we're going to have to live with. Mainstream media has succeeded in screwing over one hell of a candidate, one hell of a fighter, and a great woman who would make a great president, but they've stifled her message. And unfortunately, as honorable as a grassroots thing is, and I'm not advocating to not go grassroots, there needs to be reform on the system because grassroots should be the way it is, should be the way these campaigns are funded. But we all know, us blue-collar folks who make up the grassroots don't have the dough to compete with billionaires who are going to get all that airtime. So that's where you get the massive imbalance right there. So that hurt Tulsi coming into this. The mainstream media's constant slurring, Russia, Syria, blah, 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 blah. That didn't help anything out either. To top it all off, then the media starts silencing Tulsi, trying to keep her message down, trying to keep her off TV, and the only one that brings her on is Fox News, and then she gets criticized for going on Fox News by the other news networks. So there you go. I mean, they really just torn a hell of a woman down, and someone who would have been a great leader. And unfortunately, I'm disappointed. I'm not getting to see what I would like to have saw this time around with a Tulsi Gabbard, nomination, and perhaps Tulsi Gabbard presidency even. So it looks like about the best thing we're going to see out of it at this point is going to be Bernie, but that still got problems down the road ahead. And again, if we don't keep seeing Nevada performances out of Bernie, it's going to come to a plurality. We know what's going to happen when he gets a plurality at the convention. That won't cut it. Superdelegates come in. The fix is in. Fix is in. So, yeah, South Carolina's numbers are wrapping up. I guess congratulations to Joe Biden. South Carolina, wow. Gonna have to wake up, guys. Gonna have to wake up around here because Joe Biden is not the man for the job by any means necessary. And the fact that Joe has literally, done this well, as a South Carolinian, I must apologize for my fellow South Carolinians who thought that Joe Biden was an excellent choice for the nomination, because he is anything but that. He is a typical status quo swamp clown, and he's part of the problem that needs to be gone. So, the good news again is he hasn't campaigned anything on Super Tuesday, so perhaps after Super Tuesday, that could be the downfall of the short-lived Joe Biden empire. And honestly, I do hope that is the case. But we'll see what happens this coming Tuesday.